Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, Europe. Welcome to disposITion23. My name is Joe Marion. I'm president of ASCDI. What a week this has been. Yesterday, we had our American edition of disposITion. We finished up late yesterday. We're starting today, early in the US, for our European version. And then tonight, we're going to move on to Asia Pacific. That one's at midnight your time. So if you feel like staying up all day at midnight, I'll see you guys again at midnight Central European time for the Asia Pacific edition. Our industry is now positioned as one of the industries that's going to have a major impact on sustainability. There's a direct tie between what we do and clean energy. We harvest resources, and every time that we take a used product and we put it back into productive use, we're saving energy. We're helping the environment. You know, prior to COVID, our industry was in a downturn. Then all of a sudden, supply chain issues. People started working out of their homes. Our industry was designated as an essential to the infrastructure in most countries around the world. There's been a shift in the marketplace. Certification programs such as ADISA and R2 have changed. And we're going to be hearing from ADISA and R2 later today. The concept of ESG, environmental social governance, is affecting how the enterprises you deal with work with you. Investors and governments, they're all pushing money towards our industry if we can have a green face. So this year, as I said before, ASCDI has gone worldwide with disposITion. It's a first in the IT resale industry and something I'm really excited about. But we still have a lot of work to do. This week, let me tell you a story that happened this week. One of our members in the US called us up. They had a tape drive, 2 tape drives at the same enterprise customer that went dead on the same day. They contacted the manufacturer and found out that the manufacturer put into the microcode, put a date in there that shut down the drive in May of 2023. So when they first manufactured the drive, they put if you will, a drop dead date into the microcode. We asked the manufacturer, would they please, change that? Could they give us an update to the microcode? And they said no. They said, go ahead, tell the customer to buy 2 new tape drives. And in effect, what they were saying was take those old tape drives and throw them into a landfill. That behavior is no longer acceptable. You're going to hear a lot today about using the word ITAD, information technology asset disposition companies. The industry has started to use the word ITAD, reseller, service provider, a little bit interchangeably, but we're really all part of the same ecosystem. Some of us have decided to become certified by companies like ADISA and R2. Some have decided to go a different route. But we're all important to the environment. We're all important to the industry. We're all part of this system. So I want to thank you all for joining us here today. What I want to do real quickly is kind of just go through what we're going to be doing for the rest of the day. Following my comments, we're going to hear from Andreas from Inside Systems. We're going to talk about ITAD certifications, as I said, with R2 and ADISA. We're going to talk about some tools that are out there for ITAD companies. And again, when I say ITAD companies, we're also referring to IT resellers. We're going to talk about ESG, environmental social governance, and how that's affecting your customers, yourselves, the risks and the rewards of ESG. We're going to talk about why sustainability is no longer an option with TCO, the Swedish nonprofit association, and then we'll have a few closing comments. And again, as I said before, if you want to stay up all night at midnight Central European time, we're going to be doing this again for APAC, for Asia Pacific, but it's going to be a different agenda. It's going to be a more regionally focused, but the same thing. And then we're going to finish up today with our speed networking session, where you're going to get 3 minutes with everybody who's in attendance to just talk about what you do, who you are. We'll be sharing these recordings and the slides next week sometime. So if you somehow fall asleep or have to run to the bathroom, don't worry about it. You'll be getting it. Lastly, I want to thank our sponsors. it wouldn't be possible without the sponsors. I don't need to read the names to you. You can see them on the screen. But every one of these companies has reached out to help ASCDI not only put together disposition, but to help ASCDI all year long. So we want to thank you guys for your sponsorship and your support of ASCDI. It's real important to the industry. Okay, now I want to bring on one of our board of directors from Europe, Andreas Fibiger from Inside Systems. Andreas, Inside Systems started in 2007. Back in 2007, they were your typical IBM reseller dealer, but they've made a turn along the way. When you talk to Inside Systems today, a lot of the conversation has to do with CO2 savings. They're doing, essentially the same thing, buying products, selling it, but they're also providing services. So they've migrated from being an IT reseller to an ITAD. And with further ado, I want to introduce Andreas and thank him for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for letting me have a few words here. And it's exactly true. We started up basically just as a reseller selling products today. That part we still do, but we can call it, we are into the circular IT industry. We are extending life cycle. It's a lot more sexy that way, but we certainly have become an ITAD and a service provider as well. A bit about myself. So I'm the chairman of the board and president of Inside Systems, and also VP of Europe of the ASCDI, and we've been a member as long as I can ever remember. And personally, I have about 25 years of experience in this industry. I normally say that I'm a trader by profession and by nature as well. So it's also today I don't have any PowerPoints up to put on here because you're going to see plenty of them later. But I will be talking about some development specifically in Europe in our industry. So I hope you all have stepped out of lunch here. It's about 2 p.m. in Europe, and I know when the stomachs are full, it's a tough time to be teaching. But I hope everyone will be hungry for taking in information in the coming events, and there's going to be many great sessions following here. So and there's going to be a lot of talking about ITAD. So it is really a growth area, and we've seen the analytical and substantial data behind it. It proves about 7 to 10% annual growth, and this is going to be from now on in the coming years until 2030. I think that's and this is pretty big, I would say, and also it includes what some people call the dip we are seeing right now in the market. Many of you in the IT hardware industry right now have seen some hardware categories with prices that have been falling quite substantially, and it could be that it's probably natural because we are coming out of a couple of really good years in COVID times where supply chains have been stressed, and many reasons that when you had an inventory, it was really good business because you could kind of fill up those orders that the OEMs could not, they could simply not deliver. They kept disappointing the customers. So this was good for many of our members, that at least the ones that carried good inventories. So maybe if it's a temporary slowdown, I don't know, but it's certainly a good time now, I would say, to anyone to invest in your company and make it, and basically just buckle up and make it more fit and proper because there will be refreshes coming into the market, and the economy will come back. It always does. So good time to prepare yourself. I would also say that historically, I think many businesses, especially in our industry, have been trying to find a way to move from just selling product to going into doing something service related or selling the products as a service. And certainly last decade we saw many I would say traditional brokers going into maintenance, because that's been right up the alley. And my own company did not do that. We did not want to basically to step in that field, because most of our main customers, they are third-party maintenance customers. We did not want to become a competitor, We rather want to focus on what we're good at and to becoming even better at what we're good at, and just partner with them that way. But now with ITAD, I think that's a bit of a shift and an opportunity to go down to offer services around your hardware offerings, because it is hardware based. All within the ITAD is IT asset disposition, and it covers everything from the refurbishment and the collection, the transport, remarketing and recycling. And there are plenty of factors that pushes companies into working with you if you are able to fill the demand. In Europe, we saw the regulations. I mean, in 2018, the GDPR, and many will go, my God, I see people rolling their eyes when I mention that. But that is one of the first things that really became a driver in compliance. The next ones we see is certainly in the environmental field, ESG, CSR, and we have, of course, the carbon footprint. So if you are able to provide that to your customers, I mean, to give them that basically a peace of mind that they don't have to deal with the risks involved of handling their own hardware, that they can basically just lean back and you can provide them with all the reporting from being data wiping reports or even CO2 offset reports, which we can do, and also some other companies are able to do that. I think that's a really good opportunity to work with your customers this way. And it will require certifications and some sort of not just a proof of concept, or not just to of course you need trust, that's out of the question, but that used to be enough back in the days. Nowadays, in order to have that trust, you have to build it on with extra credibility and to verify with the certifications, and that is where they come into the picture here. I think in Europe versus what we saw in the US, we're using more the ISO certifications rather than the R2 or DISA, or there are some other ones out there. My own company has the 9001 quality and 14,001 environmental and 27,001, which is the data security ISO, and 45,001 is in line this year, as well as the R2 certification we are also getting. So once we have all these, it's gonna provide that extra level of credibility to our customers that what we say we do, that we actually do it, and that we have been inspected and qualified by an independent auditor. And this is the way that can kind of give the customers that peace of mind which they require nowadays. So question is, I mean, if there are still ASCDI members that are what we can call old school brokers, I think, because I've been asked that question before, what does the future look like for those traditional IT brokers? And I would say it's as long as you're very good at what you do and we try to become great at it, there's always a way to do good business. It's not a problem. But of course, if you want to work with even small and medium enterprise, as long as they get a little bit bigger or larger enterprises, there will be a requirement for some sort of certification, an ISO at least, and there's a good way could be to start with a 9001 just for the quality. It's not that hard, but and it's a good start to build on top with more certifications later. So yeah, and you're gonna hear more about that later. I would say lastly, I've been visiting a lot of customers in my over the years, and both small and larger ones, and without mentioning anyone by name or trying to do them any harm, I can say for sure that I've seen it every time when we're out there. They have very old equipment is sitting in the data centers, in the basements, or next to the IT rooms. It's old equipment. It's not just a priority for them to get it out, to get it processed, data wiped, or resold, remarketed, or recycled. So it is out there. There's lots of opportunities, I'm sure you will find it's the same, probably the same at home, in your own home or your own company. You will, I'm sure you have at least 5 or 10 devices, smartphones, tablets, laptop or PCs, that if you ask yourself, they should probably have been data wiped, or they should have probably been disposed of in a professional manner. So it's now the time, and I can guarantee you it's the same out there with the customers. So just go out there and make sure that they can kind of remove those risks for data leakage or any leakage that can happen. I mean, from a laptop, it has an old battery in it as well. So go there and sell those ITAD contracts. There's plenty of business to grab. And I wish everyone a great conference today as well. And I'll probably see you later. I'll stay around here for the networking as well. And ping me up if you want to have a chat.
Andreas, thank you. Yeah, I'll tell you something. I think just brilliant what you're doing. You and Inside Systems is doing. You have a way of being able to read the customer, and that's what you've done. I mean, in the old days, you'd go to the customer and you'd say, I'm selling this, or what do you have for sale? Today you're going to the customer and you're looking in his basement and you're seeing that there's a computer sitting there with a hard drive, and you're saying, if that computer sits out, there's data on there, and if that data gets out, you have a GDPR issue.
Exactly.
Why not spend a few euros and get that drive wiped clean? And all of a sudden, that becomes a revenue source for Inside Systems. You're doing the customer really a big favor. I mean, it's just a brilliant approach.
Yeah, we're simply just removing that potential risk. I mean, they can read about it. They read about the Morgan Stanley leakage. Also, other data. I mean, data leakages are happening. Still happening because for God knows what reason. Some
for those of you, Andreas just mentioned Morgan Stanley. For those of you that are not so familiar, Morgan Stanley, big investment bank here in the U.S. Had a bunch of laptops. They hired a moving company to get rid of them. The moving company sold them to a reseller, and at the end of the day, all the data ended up on the dark web, on the internet, and the equipment ended up in landfills. Well, when the regulators found out about it, Morgan Stanley was fined about 150 million US dollars. That's the risk that you're removing from your customer when you say wipe that drive.
Exactly. So that's a big risk, and it's certainly also getting it's becoming like a competitive advantage if you can, I mean, remove that risk from the customer and just give them that. I keep calling it peace of mind, because I think where 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was always about the financial side of things, that you could kind of, let me buy you equipment, I'll make some money for your company. Whereas nowadays, I mean, it's not really, I mean, that's at least what I see, it's not really on the table. There's not a corporate strategy to make money on the used equipment or to get a revenue from that side. It's not, I mean, I think, of course, they will be happy if they can get some return revenue from the used assets for sure. But it might not be where the focus is, because the customer's focus is definitely on that they can get the things done the right way with the data wiping, and they have a proof for everything. They have a reporting, they get an asset inventory list, they get the CO2 certificates, exactly how many kilos have they been offset per device, and something they can kind of add into their own annual reports. Because besides the financial annual reports, some companies are also obliged to put in a environmental annual report. And
I think
they're going to need those numbers.
I think European regulations now require public companies to provide ESG reports annually.
Yes.
The U.S. is about to the U.S. is about to do the same thing. Wall Street is dictating that now. And let me explain. Let me talk about that real quickly too. We have just another minute or so. CO2. Now you say to the customer, listen, if you take this used product and you put it back into productive use rather than taking it and throwing it in a landfill, these are your CO2 savings. Because every time you build a product, it costs CO2. A brand new product, eats up resources. So if you could put the used resource back, and you can prove that to the customer with a CO2 report, you're providing another service.
Yeah. That's for sure, and that's something we have had a good success in providing those CO2 certificates to our customers, especially and also because we have seen an increased sale of used servers and storage equipment. Previously, it was probably driven by the whole COVID, but there is a genuine demand just for refurbished servers, and it's based on the condition that the customer will buy a used equipment instead of a new one. And when you have that scenario, then you have a very big offset, actually a lot more like a negative offset.
Yeah.
Also, but of course, as we will learn later on the sustainability session, that it's never really sustainable to keep selling IT equipment or keep using it. Of course, if you want to be carbon neutral, you should just not buy anything and not do anything. But at least this is a very good way to be more sustainable and to become more carbon neutral, basically. So,
Andreas, thank you. We're running, of course, a minute late already, but thank you so much. Not only for your time today, but for your dedication to ASCDI, your dedication to the cause, for your time as our vice president of Europe on a board of directors, and for being a leader. Oh, and sponsorship. You were sponsored today too. So, Andreas, you've gone all out. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, everybody, we're going to disappear for about 30 seconds and pop back on with the next program. So hang in there. We'll see you in a second.